It's confirmed, as we just got a brand new report from a Rangers insider revealing the truth behind Will Cuylle's future in New York. And this update has Rangers fans absolutely livid, mad, whatever other words you want to use. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest because, again, Rangers fans are absolutely livid at this update, and we're going to get into it. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 77% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the New York Rangers, go down below, hit that free subscribe button, because this is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers content. But Bret, let's get right into it. Larry Brooks dropping another bombshell report this morning, and he said that it's looking like the Rangers will have to contend with a Will Cuylle offer sheet. And you know, I was saying, we talked about it in a video yesterday, we talked about it the day before that they need to get this contract done. They had to get this done before he reaches offer sheet territory, and they need to have an idea of what the team and the salary cap structure is going to look like heading into next year. And from this article, and by the way, shout out to Panarin, great X account, love everything they've been doing, and also pretty hilarious at the same time. But by inference, again, just, you know, assuming at this point a little bit, reading into things, reading between the lines, 2 years at 3.5 to around $4 million isn't going to be enough to re-sign Will Cuylle. He thinks that he could probably get more on the open market. I think that he's right. Like, another team's probably going to offer sheet him for maybe even $6 million at this point. And Will Cuylle might be the most attractive and pending offer sheet target around the league, besides Matthew Knies, and I would agree with that. We're going to get into that comparable later on in the video, so stay tuned for that, as well as some other shocking updates. But Bret, what do you make of this? You know, we've kind of been saying that it was going to be 3.5 to 4 that would be able to get it done. Looks like that's not likely anymore, and it looks like they might be walking him to an offer sheet from another team, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah, this could end up being disastrous for the Rangers. I mean, you and I have been in lockstep, along with a lot of other Rangers fans, that Will Cuylle needs to remain a Ranger for the long term. I mean, this guy embodies everything what a New York Ranger should look like, quite frankly. I mean, he's been praised by his former coach. You know, Chris Drury is very high on him. And, you know, I was wondering why the deal hadn't gotten locked up sooner, but it looks like, I'm sure Chris Drury was trying to get it done, but as you and I have spoken about, there's a lot of interest in Will Cuylle. So it could be coming from Will Cuylle and his camp. You know, let's play the market here.
Yeah.
You know, see what we could get on the open market. And I know he wants to remain a New York Ranger, but, you know, money talks, and I'm sure it's going to have to be at the right price. He's going to want to get compensated for the way he's played these last 2 seasons, more than doubling his points from his first year. I don't count his rookie year. He only played a handful of games, but these last 2 years, he's been extremely durable for the Rangers. He's been extremely productive for the Rangers, and one of the only bright spots from this past season. So I know Rangers fans will be in disarray if they lose Cuylle. Now, Darius, what we need to speak about is how far are you willing to go? Because this could not only impede this year's free agency plan, but next year's as well. So how far are you really willing to go? That's the question here for Chris Drury and Rangers fans.
Exactly, and they have $12 million right now, or just over $12 million in cap space. And like you mentioned, that's really the question right now. We know how good of a player he is. He had a career high last season. He played all 82 games, very durable, like you mentioned, right? But losing Will Cuylle, and this is from NYR Louis, and some fans, I think, I don't want to say it's 50-50, but there are fans on either side of this. A lot of people are saying, you know, if there's an offer sheet that comes in, you match it no matter what. And I mean, I'm going to mention it again. I got his jersey behind me. I want them to keep this player, right? But there are fans on the other side of things saying that, you know, the compensation in an offer sheet, if the money is too much, isn't so bad either, because if he does sign for, you know, over 4.6 million, and we broke this down in a video a couple weeks ago too, in terms of the offer sheets and the breakdown, and depending how much money he's going to make, what you'd get back in return, you know, you'd get a 2026 first round pick and a third. And, you know, maybe that's why Chris Drury did defer his first round pick next year. So maybe you have 2 of them. Maybe you saw some of the writing on the wall, and that, you know, like you mentioned, well, this is more on Will Cuylle's camp, and that they might be walking him to an offer sheet just to see what's out there and what teams are, suggesting, because I do think he wants to stay in New York. But if Columbus offers you 6 and New York's offering you 3, you're going to have to make a decision there, like for real. So it could be very interesting. Again, the compensation would be a first and a third next year's draft, which isn't horrible, but don't you want to keep a really good player that is continuing to develop, that is getting better in front of your very eyes, that plays with that chip on his shoulder like a JT Miller, that throws the body around? Wouldn't you want to keep a guy like that? I think you would. And I think I'm on the side of, try to match the offer sheet. Again, like you mentioned, this really affects the future. If you have to match an offer sheet that's $6 million, that throws like everything off for not only going into this season, but next offseason and free agency. And it could be real bad. And I mean, again, NYR only is, talking about maybe Chris Drury is the worst GM since Garth Snow, and a lot of people are starting to talk about that. And we've been very complimentary of, Chris Drury on the channel, but you can see this is the offseason so far, and it's looking pretty lackluster right now. There was a lot of hopes in terms of what they were going to do, but how are you feeling about the entire offseason and the fact that, at this point it looks like Will Cuylle, they might just be walking him to offer sheet territory. You got to get a contract done in the next 2 days.
Yeah, the way I feel about it, Darius, is that Chris Drury has some damage control to do here. I mean, you need to keep Will Cuylle at all costs here, unless it gets absurd, of course, into right. Double digits, of course, then, you have no choice there. But, enough with the Carson Soucy nonsense, enough with Keandre Miller, nickeling and diming, let's just, if you have to keep Will Cuylle, you got yourself into this scenario, Chris Drury, you need to do damage control. You need to get rid of Carson Soucy. You need to clear that cap space. And at this point, you can't be fickle when it comes to Keandre Miller. I know you need some left-handed help on the defense, but you drafted 5 defensemen yesterday out of your 8 picks. 3 of them were lefty. Braden Schneider, you can figure it out there. You need to keep Will Cuylle. That is the goal. That should be the goal for Chris Drury. These players don't grow on trees, Darius. The Rangers are horrible when it comes to developing players. They've been able to develop Will Cuylle. So, and like I said, it's very rare to find a guy who could score goals at the rate that he can, who hits players at the rate that he can. I mean, he is beloved by the fans, beloved by his teammates. He plays like a New Yorker. He is extremely productive, extremely physical. The Rangers need to do whatever it takes here. Even if it gets to $7 million, Darius, they can't let him walk away. Like I said, you need to make it up other ways. Get rid of Carson Soucy. Get rid of Keandre Miller. I know you want to get some value back there, but you got yourself into this mess, Chris Drury. You cannot let Will Cuylle walk away. The only bright spot, quite frankly, from this terrible, wretched past season. So he needs to keep Will Cuylle at all costs. That is my belief. Like I said, clear cap space in other ways. Do whatever you have to do to make it happen.
Yeah, and I think that, I keep bringing up $6 million because that's what's rumored out there that teams would give him in an offer sheet. But if you can move off Carson Soucy, because we broke down the other day that he doesn't want to move off Carson Soucy because it would be selling low. Get rid of Carson Soucy. The value's never going to be higher, actually. I don't think it's going to get any better. So get rid of Carson Soucy, free up that cap space, and if $5 million gets it done, then get it done. Keep him in New York. Make that move. Get things rolling. Sign this guy. I mean, a lot of people are comparing him to Matthew Knies. At this point in time, Matthew Knies might be a little bit better of a player, might get paid more, but that's what he is to this team, right? Like that value that he brings to a team, that physicality, the fact that he's getting better every year, he's adding different elements to his game. You can see it in real time. And again, like you said, he was probably one of the only bright spots. Like even Igor wasn't a bright spot because of the defense. Will Cuylle was like playing his butt off every single game. You could see it, throwing hits, playing physical, scoring goals, and giving like fans hope, and absolutely destroying Pietrangelo on this one play. I couldn't believe it when I was watching this game live. He absolutely destroyed him and then dropped the gloves immediately with Nick Hague. It was one of the best sequences of the season, and I'm not joking. So he's an absolute beast. Go ahead. Yeah, Bret.
And I loved every second of that, Darius. Screw Pietrangelo. I'm glad he took it to him the way he did. And look, I mean, like I said, my final thoughts here, because I'm very passionate about this, because Will Cuylle really is a stud. I do think he's going to continue to get better because he does have that want to. You could tell he cares and he wants to be great. I mean, this is a guy, when I look at the offer sheet, right, and it gets to a certain number, this is what I'm asking myself if I'm Chris Drury. Do I see Will Cuylle someday as a New York Ranger, as a future captain? Can I see that when it comes to Will Cuylle? And I can absolutely see that because, like I said, these players don't grow on trees, Darius. At his size, he's got the physicality, he's got the speed, He's got the snarl that Chris Drury has prioritized this offseason. But not only that, he has the hockey IQ that players like Keandre Miller unfortunately don't have. Like I said, he has that hockey IQ. He's got all the traits, and he is going to continue to get better. And I also believe he can play a Chris Kreider type of role where he's going to stick his body in front of the net, get those deflections, get those tip-ins, a very big body at left wing. Think he's going to fit right in on that second line beautifully as he continues to get better. I think that you need to keep him, Darius. You really do, unless it gets crazy absurd. I know $6 million, it's more than we want it to be. It should have been 3.5. That would have been, that would have been amazing. But you have to adjust. And if it's going to take $6 million and you're willing to do it at $6 million, then you might as well do it if it gets to $7 million, right? Like I said, if it gets to an absurd number like $10 million, even maybe like $9 million, something like that, then you have to question it. But you need to keep Will Cuylle here. This is a future captain, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think that he can be. I think, everyone loves the way that this guy plays. I don't think there's a single Rangers fan that doesn't like Will Cuylle at this point. And I think you have to do everything in your power to keep him. Like you said, of course, if it gets to be too ridiculous, then maybe you look at just letting him go via offer sheet. You take the compensation. But if it's something that you can match and you can keep him, retain his services, you match it. You sign him before he gets to offer sheet territory, because do you really want to rely upon, yes, you might have 2 first-round picks next year, but look at the Rangers' drafting history and the way they've developed players in the past. Do you want to rely on 2 first-round picks to fill that gap in a couple of years? Everybody from 2017 till now is gone, right? So I don't know if you want to rely on that. So let us know how you feel about this entire situation down there in the comments. I know it's going to be a fiery one because everyone wants to keep this guy, and Chris Drury seems to be taking his sweet time and seeing, maybe match an offer sheet or get some type of compensation back for it. But it's going to be very interesting. Let us know how you feel down there in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.